Well, it looks like we are all ready to go here with Sly Cooper. I think we're gonna throw it over that way. I don't know if you're seeing this chat, Exodus. We've got a bunch of we're getting a bunch of different things to say here. We got Sloop Coop and the Thooper Coop. Yeah.
Sly Gang's holding up strong.
Yeah, they're holding up strong.
Of course, they always are. Love the community.
I'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, what's going on, guys? My name is ExodusXanimate. Most people just call me Exodus. I've got Alice at Wonderland Games here on commentary, and I'm excited to show off some Sly 1 any percent to you guys. So we'll get into why we're starting from a save here in just a moment. I'll count it down from 3 and we'll go on go, and when I say go, we will start with an X input on this load. So we are going in 3, 2, 1, go. So a really interesting thing about this game is there is a lot of skips. So right off the bat, this is the tutorial level. We call it Paris. It's in Paris. So we're actually able to skip this entire tutorial level by just jumping around this death barrier that the devs didn't extend. So that way we're able just to run straight to the end and immediately exit the tutorial level. And why we are starting from a save file instead of actually starting from a new game file is we are actually skipping all of the animated cutscenes. There's a black screen here you see. I'm spamming start to skip that cutscene. What we do is would you call it a file manipulation or a glitch, Alice?
I call it a file manipulation.
We're basically manipulating the files in a way to where we don't add percentages to our game. We're basically just watching all of the cutscenes on our Paris file. So that way for every world, we're able to skip 7 minutes and 8 seconds of cutscenes through the entire run. So coming up, we have our first trick of the game here. We call it Sign Proxy. Nothing really too special. We're basically just getting pinched between 2 objects and pushed up with extended speed. So that way we can skip a little cutscene that's at the beginning, basically just telling us how to play. There's quite a few proxies throughout this run. Another thing to keep in mind is coming up here, we're going to skip a Binocucom cutscene with Bentley by falling off the map and dying on purpose. So we're able to skip Binocucom cutscenes with Bentley by loading the game or by dying. The game counts that we've watched the cutscene on the first frame of watching said cutscene. So that way we're able to not sit through these really long cutscenes. Also, there are a lot of out of bounds in this game. We're going out of bounds here to skip past a cutscene, and also it's just faster movement because there's a couple waterfalls that we don't want to get sucked down. So, another thing I'm going to have Alice help me explain here is once we exit this level, we're going to load back into the hub world. The hub world is really interesting to where there's 5 worlds in Sly 1. We are in the first world right now. There's a tutorial level to each world. We have to play through all of those, but there's major hub world skips in world 1, 2, and 4. So when we load back in, there's like a pre-designated space that the game spawns us in the hub world is like a main spawn point. We have a little bit of platforming we need to do to get to this point, but there's no save throughout this platforming section. So that way we're able to just reload the game when going through this cutscene or this level portal here, and that way we spawn right in the middle of the hub world. So after that, we have a trick called Loogie Lunge, where we are going to jump off a projectile that this guard that I'm coming up to, we will shoot, or he'll shoot at us and we're able to dodge it, which actually died, which isn't that big of a deal. It's a really tight cycle, so we're just going to reload and make the cycle. It's not too hard of a jump. So we're going to manipulate the enemy to look at us, and he's actually going to shoot, and we're able to jump off the projectile over this out of bounds area. So then, Alice, if you wouldn't mind explaining super jumping, which is our upcoming trick.
Okay. Super jumping is really interesting. Whenever you fall off of something or Sly gets stuck in a falling animation, then the ground looks for the last place that Sly's feet were solidly on the ground and will return him to that spot. But there's about a 6-frame window of which you can jump off the ground before you actually touch it, and the game won't recognize that Sly touched the ground in that area. So what Exodus is going to do here is position himself behind this cannon, in which is the boss trigger, and then he's going to prevent the game from recognizing he's ever landed, and then he's going to get himself stuck, and the game is going to throw him back to behind the cannon, and in between that, he's going to clip the boss loading trigger and just go straight to Raleigh.
A bunch of really interesting tech in this game. Another important thing to note is on these boss fights, I'm actually going to reload my console altogether. We're going to reset our entire console. The reason we do this is because the boss cutscenes are kind of long and very slow. So we're able to reset the console because, again, the game recognizes that we've watched the cutscene on the first frame that we've watched it. So we wait for at least a frame and then reload the game. And the reason I am playing on a backwards compatible PlayStation 3 instead of a PS2, which is this game's native platform, is because the backwards compatible PlayStation 3 saves a little bit of time based on loads and things like that. Just because we're able to load on these boss cutscenes, unlike on the PlayStation 2. Some of the cutscenes can be very long. Now this boss right here, this is Sir Raleigh the Frog. He is one of the most resonant sleeper boss fights you will ever see in a video game. All we do is let him bounce around, do his little hops, and we do a tiny optimization where we hit Raleigh with our cane and let him bounce back to the start. We do this a few times and then we're able to move on to World 2. One important thing I'd like to note though is we are able, just like with the Banaki-Com cutscenes, the cutscene at the end of the boss fight also counts that we've watched it on the first frame. So with a really well-timed pause, we are actually able to skip the cutscene at the end of the boss fight and immediately map to World 2. So you will see that in just a moment here. So on our last cycle here, Raleigh's going to jump off this middle platform and he's going to swing his tongue at us. And we dodge it 6 times, then we're able to pause the game.
I have a quick question from a donation here.
Okay.
We have $5 from Polecat asking, is Sly Cooper a type of polecat?
A type of polecat?
Thoughts?
I'm not sure if I know what that is.
I always considered him a trash panda at heart.
Sly is definitely an interesting character. And I actually missed that cutscene there, which I don't do too often, but it's not too big of a deal. All we do is reload the console and we can immediately go into World 2. It's not too big of a deal. It wastes a little bit of time, but maybe 30 seconds at tops. So with that boss fight down, we're able to move on to World 2 immediately instead of watching this really long cutscene. Actually loading the game here, or resetting the console, still saves a substantial amount of time. There's about 2 minutes of cutscenes that we would have to sit through. At the end of that, maybe a minute and a half, I'd say. That's just really long. But it's actually kind of sad too, because the cutscenes in this game are just wonderful. This is one of my favorite games of all time, and they really nailed it. The backstory behind all the characters, which we'll get into a little bit later when we have a little downtime, it's just a wonderful story and a wonderful game. Sly is a very interesting character. So coming up here, we have Cletus Yeetus. This is a very interesting trick, and we're actually going to use a setup that's brand new. So again, we're going to proxy between this dog and the wall and get pinched far away. We're getting proxied. And we actually got it first try, which is pretty nice. I've actually been struggling with that trick a little bit in practice.
Nice.
So it's nice getting that. And again, we're getting proxied, and the game is pinching us between the dog's attack animation and also the wall, and it's pinching us far away and giving us a lot of speed and height. Coming up here, we're going to have a trick called Door Clip, and the keys that we break in this game take about 5 seconds in an animation for Sly to grab it and kind of put it in his pocket, and another 5 seconds to unlock the lock on the wall. Well, that's really slow, so we're able to actually skip that by doing a 4-frame window timed input and clip through this wall. If we can get it here. And we got it there. So coming up here, we are in World 2 Hub. Just like in World 1, we're going to reload the game to get into our save state here in the Hub world. And again, we're going to reload again to skip this Banaki-Com cutscene with Bentley. we're going to jump over this spotlight, because the spotlight actually does not see you unless you are touching the ground, which is kind of interesting. And we're going to do another proxy here to skip into the second part of Mugshot's world in World 2 here. Again, it's just another proxy where we're pinching between the wall and a rock. And then we're going to jump across to this roof over here. And normally, to get to this part of the hub world, we would have to complete 3 levels, collect 3 keys, and unlock a car that actually gets launched through the door. But being able to run on top here and jump all the way in means we don't have to collect those 3 keys. We're also going to do a super jump chain here. This is probably the hardest super jump chain in the game. And we jump around the level trigger, and we're able to clip through the wall and immediately enter the boss fight here in World 2. And again, we're going to reload the boss fight. I'm actually going to grab a quick drink of water here. Mugshot is a really interesting boss. His backstory is he was actually bullied as a child and grew up to do a life of crime. He became a gangster and took over Mesa City. So in this boss fight, it's really interesting how we actually beat Mugshot. We don't hit Mugshot, we can't do damage to him. He's a pretty buff dude. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna hit mirrors that reflect off these crystals, and that actually burns his guns, and he has to go to the next level to grab a new pair because his guns are useless. At the end of this boss fight, we are gonna have a jump called Chandelier Jump, which is kind of interesting. We're able to jump on some invisible collision and actually just clear all of the mirrors on the chandelier instead of jumping from spire to spire on the outside of it. And again, we just did a tiny optimization there. We left one of the mirrors for last because what we want to do is skip his 5-second animations of his guns breaking. All we did is hit the mirror and immediately hit him after where he's vulnerable. It just saves a tiny bit of time there. It's no big deal if we really don't get it, but it saves a bit of time, and we always take the time save.
Mugshot also proves a very cautionary tale of don't skip leg day.
Oh yes, he has some very tiny legs. He walks with his hands. So here we have Chandelier Jump. And then we're just gonna walk across this invisible collision, load the game, and that shows the autosave logo on the bottom left, meaning we have completed that boss. And just like that, we are done with World 2, and we are moving into World 3. Now, World 3 is the only, traditional hub world. World 5 is a little bit different. We don't collect keys in World 5. World 3 is the only traditional hub world where we actually have to collect all of the keys. We have to play each level in this world because we have no hub world skip, unlike the other ones. Also coming up here, I'll have Alice explain Dread Swamp Jump, DSJ we call it.
Okay, so this is a really interesting jump. There is a very small polygon on this rock that Exodus jumps to that's actually standable, and then the circle hitbox actually extends way out from this vine so that you can jump off that rock and just jump to the vine straight from there, and it skips a good massive chunk of the level.
And just like that, we're able to skip the entire level. Now, we have to break these candles because the key you see off my left side there, it's actually locked with some voodoo magic that Ruby has casted on the key to keep it in place. Ruby is the boss that lives here in Haiti. Haiti is where World 3 takes place.
Yeah.
Ruby is also a very interesting character. We'll be able to get into her later. So, with the key, we're able to unlock the gate which leads into the hub world in World 3 here. And we will start by walking to this level called Lair of the Beast. In Lair of the Beast, we're going to do some really interesting out-of-bounds movement just to skip the entire level. And also, I'm going to have Alice explain cane jumping, which we are about to do.
Okay. Cane jumping is really interesting. There's actually a difference in timing between when Sly actually physically grabs the thing that you're holding on to and when the game thinks he does. So what you're going to do is you're going to jump off, grab onto something, and then there's a small timing window where you can jump before Sly's sprite actually grabs the thing that it thinks that you grabbed. So it's basically used to extend your jump much further than originally intended, and we're going to use that to get out of bounds here.
So we're going to jump off that tree branch and come up here. It's a small optimization, and coming up on this bone on the right is where we're going to do the cane jump. Basically just get more distance and height, and we can get out of bounds that way. And then
mind if I butt in here real quick?
Yeah, sure.
We have a $50 donation from our prior runner, Oscar424, saying, I said I'd donate $50 for the Deathless Run, so here it is. Thanks again for having me, and good luck to the rest of the amazing runners.
Appreciate that donation.
And that donation went to the Pokemon Red and Blue Glitch Exhibition. That is our finale. Atian can put a lot of glitches through there, so yeah, the more money we raise for that, the more glitches we get to see.
Perfect. All right, so coming up here, we have fish, and actually we just grazed over a small little thing we do. What we do is we are able to skip the key animations by actually pausing the game. We have a small frame window where we can pause after hitting the key, in addition to also being able to pause the game slightly before, where the game actually plays a little bit of the level. It continues like we were still in the level on the fade out for about 1.5 seconds. So in that time, we're able to collect the key, just like the bosses. We collect the key on the first frame of getting the key. So as long as we touch the key and swing all the way through the glass, we're able to collect that key. And we'll be doing that quite frequently through World 3 here. And if you have any more donations, this would be a great time. This is a pretty calm level.
Well, apparently I got the numbers backwards. I thought that I was on that point. I do not have any more donations at this point.
Sounds good.
The game is really interesting in that it's an intended feature to look really cool, that you can continue playing the game into the fade out, but the game kind of didn't take into account that anything that you do during the fade out still counts once you fade back in. So you can do a lot with the game during that fade out that still counts as save when you fade back in.
So after completing this level, lighting all these torches, the gate finally opens, and we're able to skip this key here with a well-timed input, or a well-timed pause. And just like that, we menu back to the World 3 hub, because it's actually faster to run up to our next level from the hub world. That way we don't have to do the slow movement across the bone, so we crawl back across. Now this level is also very interesting. Grave Undertaking has some out-of-bounds movement as well, because this game is very perfect in how we move throughout the level. Thankfully, we actually get a charm here, which gives us an extra hit. This is a one death platformer, where if we take a hit, we actually just die immediately. This charm on my back means that we have an extra life. So we're gonna do some out of bounds collision here and walk down this way. And this way we're able just to jump straight to the end, and we're at the key. We do have to be kind of careful. These ghosts like to spawn, and they do try to kill us from time to time. And we're going to skip that key animation skip. Messed up a little bit of menuing there, but it's not too big of a deal. And actually, I'll have Alice explain slope jumping, which we are doing right now.
Okay, so slope jumping is really interesting. It's used once again to extend much further than what the game thought you could actually jump, because as you jump something that's kind of sloped away from you, then the slope continues to push you up as your jump rises, so you're gaining a bunch of extra height.
So on that out-of-bounds movement there, we used a slope jump to get to a place that the devs didn't believe possible to get to, giving us just some extra heights, which is very handy in movement. So in this level, it's kind of interesting. So the backstory here is there is a ghost that would like to make gumbo, and collecting 50 chickens for this gumbo will make this ghost betray his master, Miss Ruby, and allow us to keep a key. So in exchange for collecting 50 chickens, the ghost will give us a free key, which is handy in trying to unlock things.
I still want to know how Bentley talked to the ghost to find this out, but
We don't worry about the small details.
maybe we'll find that out in Sly 5.
Maybe. And again, I don't understand why they need 50 chickens. That's quite a lot of chickens.
And it's a big pot of gumbo.
It's a big pot of gumbo. So, this level's kind of scary because these roosters can spawn out of any of these at any point. So we really have to take into account our movement and make sure we're nice and safe. So coming up... Go ahead.
I was going to say, this seemed like a decent time for a donation I just got in, but then we finished with the chickens.
This level's pretty slow here. We start off with an auto-scroller, so feel free to throw a donation in there.
Perfect. I've got $20 from Vician. I believe that's how I pronounce that. Probably butchered it. But it says, "Hey Exo, GL on the run. Smash that square in Ruby. Don't get purple ringed. And wah!
And what?
Donation to Runner's Choice."
I appreciate that,
Where
Major.
do you want your donations going? You can get back to us after your run and figure out what you want them to go to.
Let's just put it with the OI Foundation as the rest of the donations.
They're all going to, this is for incentives.
Incentives? Oh, okay. I will get back to you on that shortly then.
Okay, and I just got another one in. $10 from Phoenix Aki. It says, "Exodus, you're such a great person to have in the community, and we're all rooting for you to kick some clockwork butt here. Best of luck." Smiley face.
Appreciate that, Phoenix. So coming up here, this level's pretty slow moving. We basically play this level as intended with a couple optimizations where we just kind of want to break these fences in very specific places to move through fast. These towers spawn ghosts, which is kind of scary because sometimes their spawn patterns can be a little interesting. So we want to move very carefully. And it's just small optimizations like this railing off my left side here coming up. We're able to shoot over and just break these fences. Pretty casual for this level. These fire turtles are a little interesting. You can get hit. The hitboxes of these flaming heads that they're kind of throwing at us can be kind of interesting sometimes. So you just got to be really careful on your movement. You really got to be watching out of the corner of your eye when this fire turtle is going to throw their flaming heads at you, and just make sure you're in a space where you can move forward or behind. The end of this level can be a little scary. We just want to break these towers as fast as possible. We'll play it safe and kill these ghosts before going back to that left tower. And then we can just sit safely back here in the middle and shoot down this right one. And then we're able to move on. And that gives us a key, and we only need one more key to proceed to the boss fight. Coming up here, we have Descent into Danger. This is a very technical level. We have a very precise cane jump over a spiked wall, which is kind of dangerous. We'll see if we can pull it off. And I'm actually going to have Alice explain Scuba Skip, which is coming up right after this jump, if you'd like to explain that.
So, Scuba Skip, the water that you see below this level here, most of it has the death hitbox programmed into it, so you die if you touch it. But the darker water, that's actually where the key's at, actually doesn't have any of the death hitbox programmed into it. And we found this skip kind of recently, so a few months ago at this point. And you can actually, with a really precise jump into the section of the water that doesn't have the death hitbox and just walk over to the key.
This is Scuba Skip right here. And we pulled it off, which is nice. We did lose a charm, but that's okay because we can easily grab one after the Ruby fight, because we do need to lose it anyway. And we'll skip that key animation skip with a well-timed pause, and we're going to menu back to chickens. The reason we're going to menu back to this level is because this is where the boss fight is unlocked. It's the closest point we can get to straight out of the menu. Saves us a little bit of time of platforming around the hub world. So we're going to open up these keys, which knocks off these guards, and we're able to use the pressure of this pot lid, which is kind of interesting. And I don't really understand how this works, but it launches us into this alligator crocodile head up here, and that's where Ruby is hanging out. Ruby fight is really interesting because it's a rhythm-based level. So we're actually going to reload here, skip this intro cutscene. Ruby is a very interesting character. She didn't have a lot of friends growing up, so she actually learned voodoo magic to make her own friends, and grew up to be a very evil witch. And she uses her voodoo magic throughout this hub world, as we've been seeing. So coming up here, we're going to do some well-timed jumps and try and make a cycle on these teeth that we're going to spire jump on. And we're going to do some out-of-bounds movement, which is kind of interesting. And I'll actually have Alice explain why we go out of bounds here.
Okay, so right now, so the Ruby in front of you, it's supposed to be the first time you hit her. You jump on that platform and you hit her, and it talks, or she starts a really long cutscene where she talks a good while. So obviously want to skip that. And there's a really interesting skip where if you go out of bounds here and then you jump behind Ruby and touch the water behind her, the game assumes that you died in the next phase because you had to have if you were in that water there. So it skips the cutscene and skips the phase of hitting her.
That way we don't have to watch that very long cutscene. Now, the second phase of Ruby, as well as the third, it's kind of like Dance Dance Revolution. We just have to time our inputs to what she's throwing at us on the controller. Now, the devs never added a cap on these buttons, so we can literally just spam these buttons as much as we want. You might hear a little bit of a pounding sound in the background. That's actually the game telling us that we're pressing the input on the wrong time. But as long as we spam and we don't drop any inputs, we will not fail this section of the boss fight. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, it was my understanding that DDR stood for Dance Dance Raccoon.
Dance Dance Raccoon. That makes sense as well.
Got a second we're DDRing?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So we have $10 from Tame Neon. It says, praying for a purple ring, smile.
I appreciate that, Neon. I'll remember that.
And then we also have $10 from Nave357. Says, EXO, this run is PogChamp. I know you were screaming on the inside with that first try free SJ. Kappa, thanks for teaching me so much about this game and being an awesome pillar of the community. Keep it up.
I appreciate it, Nave, and yes, I was. I was very happy about that. That was a trick that was giving me a lot of trouble in practice. So, Alice, if you'd like to explain what we're about to do here on this hit on Ruby.
Okay, so Ruby actually has a fourth phase here where you're riding on a mosquito and it takes about a minute long, and then obviously there's the whole cutscene of watching after Ruby dies. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to load the game right before hitting Ruby, and then that's actually going to manipulate her hitbox and hold her there for just a little bit. So you can spam swing the cane and hit her both of her last two hits on this phase.
Alright, well, I'm actually very happy about that kill on that boss fight because that has been a very troublesome trick in practice. And that is a 3-minute time loss if I miss it. So I am very, very happy to make it past that trick. So coming up here, we are in World 4 now. There is a hub world skip here, which we will get into in just a moment. Now, Perilous Ascent is just like the first 3 worlds where we have a tutorial level. And we play this level mostly casually with just better movement. There is an out of bounds here that we're gonna do to avoid a cutscene. And actually, if Alice wouldn't mind, we can start getting into World 4 skip. Now, World 4 skip is coming up after this level, and it is a lot of information to take in. So I'm gonna have her take it from here, and I'll focus on this level.
So, the way that we skip World 4 is actually a variation of super jumping, where you get a very specific starting point, but instead of finding a specific ending point, what Exodus is going to do here is go out of bounds and hit a section of the water that's out of bounds, which normally causes him to take damage, but he's going to clip it just on the very edge, so that he continues to fall into the void, where we're in entirely unintended reach. And because Exodus is falling into the void so far, then the game is going to create a bunch of acceleration to get him back to his starting point, and it's going to way overshoot his starting point and just launch straight into the boss trigger.
This trick is also very new. This trick was found this year and is a huge, huge contribution to this community. Shoutouts to T Sparkles and Paul for really working on this.
Woo!
This trick saves 8.5 minutes off of the run, and we did this in any percent up until 2020. So this is a huge, major accomplishment, and really brought down the times, and the leaderboards are very hectic, and still kind of are. And it's also a very, very difficult trick to pull off, so we'll see if we can do that for you guys here. We're also going to attempt a tiny swag strat here, where we'll see if we can get launched really high up in the air. And we got it. So that saves absolutely 0 time, but we get to fly, which is kind of fun. We missed our jump on this ledge, which is okay. We can kill that guard and jump up normally. Normally we jump past him really fast. And I actually don't have a charm here, and I'm not sure why. Did I lose a charm? I'm not sure why I don't have a charm. Oh, I didn't grab one after Ruby. That's okay. We can easily grab one in Descent into Danger, which isn't too big of a deal. Actually, I think with the setup of World 4 skip I have, it's actually faster to go back to World 3 and grab it. So we're going to waste maybe 20 seconds here just to go grab a quick charm, and then we'll just menu back to the hub world. It was my mistake not grabbing the charm. I forgot we lost it in Descent because of that guard who decided to shoot us. So we're just going to go grab this charm from the beginning of this level and menu back to World 4. Now, the Void Run that we're going to do coming up for World 4 skip is very interesting to where it requires a death abuse. So we actually need to have a charm in order to do this trick. So pretend like that never happened, and we are back in World 4. And we're going to try this difficult jump, which we hit. And that saves maybe 3 to 5 seconds based on how fast you do it. We just get to skip killing the guard and jumping on the railing. So we're actually going to go out of bounds behind this level here. And while we're back here, we're going to run against this wall. The hardest thing about this trick, in my opinion, is the setup. We really want to make sure our ground position is on the very edge. So I'm going to run up the wall. We're going to jump up the wall, and we're going to ledge grab. And then we're going to grab onto this ledge here, which we actually fell, so we're going to reload real quick. It's a very difficult trick to set up.
That it is.
So we will give it one more go, and I'm sure this is the one. So again, we're going to do this well-timed jump past this guard. Well, that time we actually triggered his sight, but that's okay. Because we are too fast for him to hit. We're going to run back over behind to where we were. We'll be extra careful not to fall here. So we're going to jump up the wall. I'm going to do that one more time. We're going to ledge grab. And that should launch us back over there for some reason.
So everything Exodus is doing here is to make sure that his starting position, the game thinks that the last time he touched the ground is right here, and that's changing the angle at which he's going to be launched.
And then we're going to find a really specific camera angle, and we're going to do our void drown. That was a very good looking drown. Now we're going to time an X input to get launched back, and we're going to gain more momentum. We're actually going to use a visual cue off the right hand side here and fall. And we hit it. Shoutouts to Alice at Wonderland Games here commentating. She actually found that visual cue there.
Pog, that's me.
So that way we're able to clip into this boss trigger that we aren't normally supposed to get to. Even with all those getting the charm and the death during World 4 skip, that'll still save exponentially more time than actually playing through the hub world. So coming up here, we have Panda King. We're actually going to do a trick here called Grim Panda, which Alice, if you don't mind explaining what Grim Panda is while I keep track of count.
Okay, so whenever you're fighting this boss normally, you hit him 10 times, and then he does a belly bump to throw you back to the start of the arena, and you need to platform back up to the top of him. But if you get really close to him and time your jump super well, you can actually bounce on top of his belly instead of his belly smacking you away, so you go just straight up in the air and you can keep hitting him.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is just a few frame window trick. We actually got all 4 cycles, which is very, very good. I don't get that too often. And then we're actually going to hit him in the air because his cutscene doesn't initiate until we land on the ground. And again, first frame we kill the boss, the game believes that we have beaten the boss. And just like that, we are in World 5, which is the final world of the game. If we have any donations here, this would be a great time. We have an auto-scroller and a mini-game level coming up here, back-to-back.
Perfect. I have one donation at this point. I've got one from Cinderkit55 saying, "Hey EXO, it's been amazing to see how much you've grown through Sly. I'm so proud you and Alice got the chance to show off this game. You got this."
I appreciate it, Cinder. So we're basically on the way to Clockwork's lair right now. This is the level's called A Hazardous Path. So Clockwork's gonna throw everything he can at us to try and prevent us from getting to him. So he throws these Robo Falcons at us that we just have to shoot down. They do dive if we take too long to kill them. And there's a few phases of those. And then we also have these boulders that come down in an avalanche. Coming up here, we have another phase of... We actually just got a death from RNG. That has only happened to me twice ever. Someone in the Sly community actually named that the Exo Boulder, because I believe, the only person to get hit by a boulder like that. And leave it to marathon luck. That's the second time it's ever happened in all my time playing this game. So, because of that, we are going to go back and replay this level, which isn't too fun. But again, there's nothing we can do about that. It was 100% RNG. So go ahead.
Take a second. Let's just shout out the Sly community, since this is an auto-scroller.
Oh yes. If anybody is like seeing this game and interested in running this game, the Sly community is absolutely fantastic. Everybody is so friendly, and for the longest time I was such a big fan of speedrunning, and I couldn't decide what game I wanted to play. I know the Sly series is a huge nostalgia game, and we have a lot of resources out there that help beginners really get into this game. The world record holder in this game is happy to help out with any new runners, as are all of us. We are a very inclusive community and happy to help in any way possible to help you learn this game. So huge shout out to the Sly community. They're definitely a huge... Go ahead.
For a PS2 game, the physics still feel great.
Oh yeah, this is a very clean feeling game. Now we're gonna hit these bombs that are falling down the roadway here, and then we have one more phase of birds that we need to kill, and after that we are through this level. And this is the hardest phase of birds. They throw a lot of them at us. The only technique I'm really using here is I just kind of gotten used to some of the paths that a lot of the birds cross. So I like to pre-fire those areas where I know they're going to cross into. And that way we can move on. If we take too long to kill the birds, we will actually stop the van, and that loses time. So coming up here, we have a level called Burning Rubber. Now, Bentley blatantly lies to us here and says there are only 119 computers to collect, as he's saying right here. I'll let him finish his sentence so I can actually continue talking. Bentley likes to interrupt, but we love Bentley. Very friendly man. But, as I was saying, Bentley blatantly lies to us, telling us there's only 119 computers, so we have to be the first to 60. There have been multiple occurrences where I have had 60 computers and the slugs have had 59, and let me tell you, there is way more than one more computers laying on the ground. You can actually get a despawn on these slugs. The way these slugs work is kind of interesting, actually, because they aren't despawning and respawning. They get knocked off where I hit them and they actually come back. It's the same 4 slugs every time. You can actually get a despawn on them by hitting them back to their point of origin, I believe, Alice? Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
But it's very inconsistent, and I don't think I've ever done it successfully in a run. I believe Alice has, though.
I've done it once in a run. It's right when you start, you immediately turn around, and right when you see the first slug spawn, just smack it as far as you can, and sometimes you'll get the despawn, but it's very not consistent.
So coming up here, we have a trick called Bentley Skip, and this is, I'd say, one of the hardest tricks in the game. So I'll have Alice take it away here and explain this while I focus a little bit.
Okay. So this is really difficult trick because you have to rely on one of these turrets up at the top of this walkway here in order to launch you over the level trigger, or the loading trigger. So what normally happens when you get to the end is you walk in there, and then there's a trigger in which Clockwork was preparing to trap Sly, and he's using some kind of gas to weaken Sly's nerves, and what we're going to do instead is you're going to line up right on this turret, jump on the turret right when it opens, and that'll give you enough momentum to jump over the trigger, and then you skip an entire level doing this.
And we actually first tried it, which is fantastic. Now coming up real quick, we have a pause we can do here. That is a 4-frame window pause, and is very difficult to hit. If we full miss that pause on this level, that is a minute time loss. There's a way you can actually get a half pause where the menu opens up and closes. If that happens, we lose 30 seconds. It is definitely a run killer sometimes. Bentley skip is a very difficult trick, so it's very exciting to see a first try attempt on Bentley skip. Coming up here is our last kind of auto-scrolled level. A little bit of backstory to this level is this level's called Temporary Truce, and we're actually playing as Carmelita. Carmelita is a police officer that actually is trying to catch Sly and bring him to justice because he is a master thief. We were able to do a temporary truce. We almost died there because that slug got proxied, but we are safe. We have a truce to take down Clockwork, who is a much more dangerous criminal. Coming up here is a level called Sinking Peril. Now, Sinking Peril is a very fun level if done correctly, but it's also very terrifying because there's a lot of objects and things that Sly can grab onto, so we really got to be careful on where we move our character. So right off the bat, we're gonna do a cane jump or a hook jump here, a cane jump off the hook, drop these gears, and we can skip another small portion of the level by jumping on top of this gear and landing on this little electrical wire of sorts. And we're gonna continue to do some well-timed cane jumps, and we can jump around that to save a few seconds. And then cane jump up here and skip half the level. And just like that, we are coming up to the final boss fights against Clockwork here.
I just want to throw out, that's notoriously the hardest cane jump in the run. You continually to just make it look like it's nothing.
That is very much the hardest cane jump in the run. I'd actually argue that bone jump is up there too, but it's very, very difficult either way. So here, what's happening here is we're still truced with Carmelita to take down Clockwork. Now, Clockwork's metallic armor here, as a robot bird, it's very tough. And these bullets that Sly is shooting are actually too weak to penetrate the armor and actually do damage to Clockwork. So Carmelita is actually shooting from far away, exposing the armor with her shock pistol so we can actually do some damage. Now, I'm going to let Sly and Clockwork do a little friendly banter here. If you happen to have any donations, this would be a great time.
I do not at this point.
No problem. We'll let Sly and Clockwork do their little text dialogue and talk here.
Why did you let me live when you stole the Thievius Raccoonus? Because I wanted to show the world without your precious.
Was this the part of the run where we're talking about purple rings?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, purple rings. Purple rings, these rings that you see on Clockwork right here, he launches these electrical rings at us and we need to go through the middle. If we're on the outside, we get shocked. Now, there is a very, very rare RNG occurrence where these rings, after passing by Sly, can actually bounce back and hit you from behind. And again, just like the boulder that hit me earlier, there's absolutely nothing I can do to prevent it. It's entirely RNG based. And quite recently, I actually lost about 5 PB paced runs to this alone. This and the trick we're about to do at the end of the run. And it's a very frustrating way to lose the run. So hopefully we don't get purple rings.
I don't understand how you get them so frequently. I've literally had one run in my life die to a purple ring.
I am the most unlucky Sly runner, I guess. And we actually did not get purple ringed. We cannot get purple ringed on the last phase. So coming up here, we have Clockwork Jump, which is the final trick in the game and one of the most scary parts of the run. Especially during a PB pace run here, your nerves are high. You're coming up on this trick. We do a very well-timed double jump over lava to grab onto this pipe to skip 30 seconds of platforming. So we'll see if we can get it here. And we got it.
Nice.
That saves about 28 seconds, I believe. And that is time on the final hit of Clockwork.
It took some tricky maneuvering.
And that is
I managed to snatch
the end
that last
of
piece
Sly
of
1
Thievius
any
Raccoonus
percent.
from Clockwork
I want to
Supply.
say a huge shout out to
I'd
Midwest
taken
Speed
down
Fest.
each member of the fiendish
Being
mob.
from the Midwest myself,
Molly,
it's so cool to see an event
Mugshot,
like this, and
Louise Ruby,
it was a huge
Hanky,
pleasure to play here
finally
at
Clockwork.
Midwest Speed Fest.
I'd beaten
And
all one by one
hopefully we can
and
play some
claimed
more
my
in the
birthright.
future.
Of course,
Again,
there was no way
shout
I
out
could
to
have
the Sly
gotten here
community.
without the help of my
I
parents.
would not be where I am
I know
without
it's
the help
easy
of
for them.
many
Stuck with
runners.
me through it all.
Again, if anyone is interested in running this game, it is very beginner friendly, and everyone in the Sly Discord, you can see it on speedrun.com for Sly Cooper, the Thievius Raccoonus. The entire community is very friendly, so if you join the Discord in the resources in the speedrun.com group, you'll be able to meet a lot of friendly people.
Who could ever forget the lovely Carmelita?
We actually do have a kiss
like
scene
we're not
coming
gonna
up
be
if
friends
anyone
anymore.
is interested in watching that. We happen to
Now the
have
Clockwork
a few
Stuff
extra
raised that
seconds
mission.
that
We're back
will
to playing cops and robbers.
please
We have plenty of
I thought
time.
for sure she
plenty
was
of
gonna
time.
slap the handcuffs
This will
on me right
please
then
some of
and
the
there.
Sly community, and this
But
will
instead, she was true to her
upset
word,
other
giving me
members
that
of the
10-second
Sly
head
community.
start. 10, 9,
So we wait for it right here.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. 1.
And there it is. Carmelita looks really happy and flushed, but Sly actually pulled a trick on her and left the handcuffs on so he could make a break for it and
I
leave.
felt bad leaving her stranded on a giant rock, but I knew.
But
it
I
wouldn't
think
be
that'll
long
do it
before
from
we'd
me
see each other
here.
again.
Is there anything else you need from me?
We have extra time if you have like fancy glitches or stuff you could show off. That
Ooh, fancy glitches
we have,
or stuff
we have some
could
time
show
to
off?
fill since we were ahead before you, and you came in under estimate. So if you want to,
I do have
you got
one.
stuff to show off.
I do have one I would love to show off if I can get it. This trick is the most precise trick in the game and saves about how much time would you say, Alice? I think you know what I'm talking about.
It's 28 seconds.
28 seconds. I don't even have to say it and she already knows what I'm talking about. This trick
Let's
is
go,
called
Periscope.
This trick is called Periscope Proxy. And it is in the first level of the game, which is very nice because I don't think anybody would ever attempt this trick if it was any later in the run.
Do you know who I am?
You probably would go for it. I believe that.
This
Now-
is my favorite trick.
Sounds like one of those tricks that, you know, we're on world record pace. Okay, we gotta go for it.
Yep,
Otherwise,
yep.
we're not gonna be on world record pace anymore.
This trick is required for world record in this game, which is held by Tam Neon, who might still be in the chat, donated earlier. Very friendly man. So it is in the first level of the game, a stealthy approach. I am about one decent PB away from adding this trick full time, which kind of scares me. I haven't had a lot of practice on it, but we'll see if we can get it real quick since we have a little bit of extra time. So instead of completing the level like normal, in the first level of the game, going off to the right and platforming off that pole, there's this periscope right here. So we're gonna line it up here. And again, this is the most precise trick in the game. Time a jump, and basically the idea is we want this periscope to swing around and hit us and launch us very far. And we got it second try, which is incredible.
Let's go.
And what that does is that actually would save time substantially based on my normal route that I did in this marathon and what I do in my solo runs as well. So what we're able to do here, we'll see if we can get it, is we want to avoid this hammer guy and make sure he doesn't hit us. We're able to jump on top of this wheel. We actually missed the cycle, but we are able to land on top of those railings and allow us to run all the way through to the end here. And it's a very substantial time save. And just like that, we're able to complete the level much faster, and I'm very excited that I was able to show that off. I was thinking about doing it in my run, but I had a few things that were going a little rough in practice, so I decided against it. So it was a privilege to be able to show that trick as well. But that's probably the only major trick that I didn't show. So I don't think I have anything else for you.
Okay, well, I guess we'll cut that there then. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
That
as
was
well.
entertaining to watch.
Thank
A
you
lot of
for
fun.
having
Thanks for
us.
having us.